Okay, I think in order to make the best use of our time today, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Cal Week 2020. We are sorry that we can't be doing this in person, but hopefully we will get to meet virtually sometime over the summer or sometime in the fall. Just to make sure everyone is in the right place, this is the info session for the data science major and minor for transfer students, so those students who will be joining us for their junior year. Before I get into it, I really did want to say congratulations to everybody for getting into Berkeley. It's a huge achievement. We're really excited for you. And again, we do look forward to seeing you here at some point soon. And just one housekeeping note, you're all on mute now, as you probably can tell. We will be taking questions via the chat at the end of the call. So as I go along, if you have questions, just jot them down or feel free to throw them into the chat and we'll answer them at the end. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Amanda Dillon, and I am one of 4 undergraduate advisors for the data science major. I work with a pretty awesome group of folks. Altogether, we have more than 20 years of experience on campus. So you are working with the best of the best, I like to think. When you think of advisors on campus, it really is a support network for you. So this is going to be everything from helping you craft your schedule, anywhere from this semester to a 4-semester plan if you wanted to create one, understanding if double majoring is an option, if you have a minor in another department you'd like to pursue, what your schedule might look like then. If you're interested in study abroad, we can talk about that. And then we're also a hub to get you to the resources that you need. So if you're interested in learning about internships and careers, we do have some of that knowledge locally, but a lot of that can be found at our Career Center. If you're interested in study abroad, we can talk to you about that, but then also, connect you with the folks in the study abroad office who can help you learn a little bit more about what your options might be. So we're really here to support you in your academic endeavors here, but also co-curricularly. What else are you interested in doing? Joining a club, again, going abroad, maybe doing an internship. So all of those kinds of things. All right, so let's get a little bit into our division. So we are the newest division on campus. We are the Division of Computing, Data Science, and Society, also known as CDSS. We're led by Jennifer Chase, who is our Associate Provost, and Deb Nolan, who is our Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education. Also in this division are the School of Information, the Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and the Department of Statistics. So these are the folks that we partner most closely with to bring you the education program that we have for data science. Okay, so let's get into the major. So I'm going to talk about the components that you're going to need to fulfill in order to declare the major. So these are our prerequisites. And given that this is a presentation for transfer students, things can get a little bit interesting in terms of your level of preparation, what you've taken at your transferring institution versus what you would take here. So let's start with Data 8. And I'll go into a little bit more about this class in the next slide, but specifically for this slide, Data 8 is not a class that we expect any of you to have taken. It's all offered almost exclusively at Berkeley, so this is a class you can expect to take your first semester here on campus. Yes. Okay. For math, we do expect 2 semesters of calculus. At Berkeley, that looks like Math 1A and 1B, so if you have taken equivalents of those at your transferring institution, great. But we do also accept exam credit for these, like AP. And then for linear algebra, we accept, or this most normally looks like a Math 54 equivalent at a transferring institution. And then for programming, we have 2 requirements. The first is program structures at Berkeley, that's CS88 or CS61A. We don't really see students coming in with this, our transfer students coming in with this, not popping up at a lot of transfer institutions. So this is likely a class that you're going to need to take at Berkeley. Data structures, however, which is 61B at Berkeley, we are seeing equivalent courses popping up at a lot of our transfer institutions, especially our California community colleges. So this may be a course that some of you have taken. So specifically, in order to declare the major, you need to have a C- or better in all of these courses, and then a 2.0 overall between Data 8, linear algebra, and data structures. So if you took Math 54 and CS 61B equivalent courses at your transferring institution, we will use the grades that you received in those courses along with your grade for Data 8 to calculate that GPA for entrance into the major. So for those of you that are joining a little bit later, we are going to be taking questions via the chat. So you're all on mute, but I'm going to try and get through this so that there's plenty of time to answer all of your questions at the end. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit of water. All right. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about Data 8. So this is our foundational lower division class in data science. It's really an introduction to what data science is at Berkeley. So it's going to be an introduction to Python. You're going to see some statistical analysis. There will be introduction to data visualization. You'll have a bit more, you get exposure to probability and inference. And really, if you want to get to know that class a little bit better, learn about our Jupyter notebooks and what the syllabus looks like, what the experience is like in that class, I really encourage you to visit the website that's listed there, data8.org, to learn a little bit more about what that class is like. But this is a super exciting class. It's quickly become probably one of the most popular classes on campus. So I think you're really going to enjoy it. And along with Data 8, these Data 8 connector courses have popped up, which are really cool courses that offer students a way to contextualize what you're learning in Data 8 in different fields of study. So as you can see, there's just a sampling of them there on this different areas on the slide. These do tend to change from semester to semester. So we'll see new ones coming in and out. They're typically 2 units. And the other cool thing about the fact that this gives you sort of a way to practice the skills that you're learning in Data 8, sort of in a specific field of study, is that they tend to be smaller classes. At Berkeley, we have most of the classes are pretty big. And so this is a nice way to get kind of a smaller class experience, learning about some specific area of data science. Okay. So let's talk about the upper division curriculum in data science. So there are 8 courses that make up the upper division curriculum. I'm going to go through them in a little bit of detail here, but you'll probably hear me refer you back to our website, which is data.berkeley.edu. And within that website there, we have some major resource pages that give you much more information about these different requirements, the classes that meet these requirements, and can hopefully answer some more of your more specific questions that we may not be able to get to today. But in brief, Data 100 is our upper division foundational course, and this is the one course that all of our students will take. So after this, the path kind of really vary. So Data 100 is one course. You'll take one course in probability. You'll take one course in modeling, learning, and decision making. And this is really the courses that meet this requirement tend to be machine learning courses. 2 courses in computation and inferential depth. These courses are offered from departments like computer science, economics, statistics, School of Information, physics. There's a huge variety of classes here that will meet these requirements. So really a lot of option there to kind of create this major to look, to kind of fit your needs and kind of the kind of data scientist that you want to be. And then our human context and ethics course. And actually, I should have mentioned this when I had the Data 8 slide up. The human context and ethics piece is very important to us here in the data science education program and in the division. And really, it's a way to help give you the tools that you need to navigate really complicated spaces, essentially kind of how to be ethical with your work with data, whether it's collecting data, analyzing data, presenting those findings, how those findings are used. It's a really tricky landscape, and you'll get introduced to that in Data 8, and then you'll actually get to spend a whole semester in a course on it in your upper division curriculum, and you'll actually find it weaved in and out of some of your other classes. We really do want you to become an ethical, sort of thoughtful data scientist, and knowing these giving you these skills will help you get there. So finally, in the upper division curriculum, so that is, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 classes. And then your last 2 classes come from your domain emphasis. And the domain emphasis is actually made up of 1 lower division class and 2 upper division classes. And I'm going to go into those in a little bit more detail on the next slide. So as you can see, we have over 25, or no, maybe right around 25 domain emphases to fit sort of almost every sort of interest or academic pursuit out there. And the way the domain emphases work is they're a little bit like our connector courses in that they give you more contextual, more contextualization of your data science skills that you're picking up. And learning from your classes. As you can imagine, if you're going to be working with large amounts of data, it's helpful to know, what that data is and know a little bit about what it is that you're working with, to know whether the conclusions that you're drawing are the right conclusions, and whether the way that you're analyzing them is the way that is the way the data should be analyzed. So the domain emphases really give our students a chance to dive in a little bit deeper in specific areas. And again, if you want to learn more about the specific classes that make up these domain emphases, you can head over to our website, data.berkeley.edu, and you'll find all of these listed on our website with exactly what courses make up the different domain emphases. I did want to take a step back and talk a little bit about this 1 lower division requirement. So this 1 lower division requirement is not a requirement to declare the major, and it actually may be that you have already met this requirement. Many of our lower division domain emphasis requirements are classes that you may have taken to meet your LNS breadth requirements. So there may be quite a bit of overlap there. These are things that we'll talk about and we'll discover in the summer when you meet with an advisor to talk about what your first semester program plan might be. We'll talk about what your preparation level is, what classes you've taken, and kind of what it is that you need to do once you get here in order to advance in the major. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your first semester. So this is an example of 1 plan. This is by no means the only plan. There are a lot of iterations for this, as I mentioned earlier. Many of you may be coming in at different levels of preparation, and so your plans might look different than this. But there are a few things about this plan that I really like, and I'm going to talk about that before I talk about the courses themselves. This is a really balanced plan. As you can see, we've got some more computationally heavy courses, and then maybe some lighter courses that might be using the other side of your brain. And this is really important to maintain a balance. The classes at Berkeley you're going to find are quite time consuming and will probably not be the strategies that you put in place to do well at your transferring institutions. You may have to revise them a little bit. And so this first semester, we really, really want you to have a balanced schedule and not to overwhelm yourself. And a schedule like this, which kind of has that balance, is really important. So Data 8, as talked about before, likely a class that you're all going to have to take. So we set it aside here for your first semester. The programming components, so CS88 and CS61A. So this is this is not and. There's some nuances between why you might take one versus the other. And again, this is something you'll talk to your advisor about over the summer, which class makes most sense for you based on your schedule and your level of preparation. But that is a very time-consuming class. And then the LDDE is your lower division domain emphasis. And again, as I mentioned, you may have met this already. So that is a class that you may or may not have to take. And then the last course that you'll see there is your American Cultures requirement. This is also referred to as your AC requirement. This is a requirement that 99% of our transfer students have not taken. So even if you finished IGETC, you've likely not taken this class. And so this is a good place to throw it in to make sure that, again, you've got that balance and that you're not overwhelming yourself your first semester. Okay. All right. I'm just blasting through this thing. So we're going to take a minute away from the major and talk about the minor for a moment. It may be that many of you on the call are not right now interested in the minor, but we see when students get to campus, things may change. You might find another major that you feel better about, or is more suited to your particular academic pursuits, what you want to do in the future. But we want to make sure that you're aware that pursuing data science curriculum is still an option in the form of a minor. So tuck this away and remember that this is also possible. So the minor, as you might imagine, is less classes than the major. The lower division requirements are Data 8, a programming component, and a probability component. And the upper division requirements, there are two different pathways through. There's what's called the 1 core course pathway and what's called the 2 core course pathway. So the 1 core course pathway is Data 100 plus a human context and ethics course and 2 electives. And the 2 core course pathway involves taking Stat 131A and 133, human context and ethics course, and 2 electives. And the big difference between these 2 pathways is that Stat 131A and 133 don't require Math 54 or linear algebra. So this is a way to give our students who may not have gone that far in their mathematical pursuits, but still want to get educated about data science and what data science is and pick up some skills. So that's why we have these 2 different pathways in our minor. Okay. So I want to make sure that you are aware of what's available to you outside of the classroom. We've spent a lot of time talking about classes and schedules and programs. And I want to talk a little bit about the other things that you can do while you're here on campus. So one of the really cool programs that we have in our department is called the Discovery Program. And this program pairs students with local, either other units, departments on campus, potentially nonprofits in the area, industry partners, pairs students with these folks to work on data science projects. And this is usually during the fall and or the spring. And so it gives students a chance to actually get hands-on working on a data science project during their academic semester. And you can get units for this, so you can actually build this into your semester. And we know that a lot of our students are coming in not having had internship experiences yet. So this is a great way to start preparing. If you're thinking that you might want to get an internship next summer, this is a great way to start getting some experience, start understanding the opportunities that are out there. If you like this work, what parts of it do you like? What do you want to learn more about? All the things that kind of actually getting in and doing the work brings up for you. So this is a really cool program. You can actually learn about what partnerships are happening this semester if you head on over to data.berkeley.edu and click on the research link, and under discovery programs, you can learn all about this program. Okay. Data Scholars is a program that's specifically for our underrepresented and non-traditional students. And this is a support program that it's a 3-semester long program. It starts with support in Data 8, both academically and socially, and then moves through another semester. That's their first semester. And then the next semester is actually career focused. So it's really going to hone in on creating a resume, interview skills, networking, understanding what kind of careers are out there for you, connecting you with professionals in those fields to learn more about them. And then your final semester as part of Data Scholars is a guaranteed placement in a discovery program project that I mentioned earlier. And then our student teams. So fun fact about data science, it was really designed in partnership with students, and students are still integral to pretty much everything we do here. So there are lots of opportunities to give back, to get involved, to really deepen your experience here and broaden your community, get to know your peers better, get to know the professionals in the data science program better. Everything from communications, analytics, external adoption might be really interesting if you have taken Data 8 and fallen in love with it and want to help us bring it to your transferring institution. That is definitely something we're looking to do right now. Peer advising and consulting, curriculum development, and human context and ethics. So if you took one of those courses and really liked that content, really kind of felt deeply about how important it is that our students get that content, that would also be a really cool team to join. So want to make sure you know that obviously your academics are important, but that we're really interested in you becoming a well-rounded, happy individual here on campus, and that there are lots of things that you can be doing outside of the classroom to kind of make this huge Berkeley world feel a little bit smaller. Okay, so we are wrapping up here. This second to last slide. I put this one in here so I could remember that there are a few things I wanted to talk about specific to transfer experience. One is, we talked a little bit about it before, but when you're admitted to the College of Letters and Science, you're admitted as an intended student. So you all are intended data science majors, which means that you have to go through what we talked about before, those additional classes and that declaration process before you're actually declared in the major. And this is an important distinction because there are certain things that happen once you get declared. Probably namely and most important for most students is that you actually begin to get priority in some of the classes. Not all of them, but there are some classes that our data science students have priority in. The second thing I wanted to make sure you are aware of is the 5th semester option. So oftentimes we hear from our transfer students that 4 semesters just doesn't seem like a whole lot to take advantage of everything that is at Berkeley, and it's not. And so I want to make sure that you are aware that for most of our transfer students, a 5th semester is a totally viable option. This just involves a little bit of careful planning and not overloading your units each semester. And so this really gives you time to spread out your curriculum and to kind of take advantage of all that Berkeley has to offer. And also it gives you an extra semester or an extra summer, which is a really nice thing to have in terms of picking up another internship or getting an internship experience. So just throwing that out there. Just, if this sounds interesting, remember to bring it up in an advising session, although most advisors will probably bring it up with you too. But just know that you don't have to kind of get here and rush through this. There is time, and there's time to enjoy yourself. Also wanted to note, I did mention that Data 8 was a really popular class, and it is. And so we've set aside seats for our incoming class of 2020. So don't worry about getting into that class. And actually, that reminds me, I do need to let you know that if you decide to come to Berkeley this fall, you will be part of our inaugural transfer class of 2020. You will be the first official transfer class that we'll have here in the data science major. So we are really super excited about that. And finally, one more slide, but finally on this slide, wanted to let you know there's a very easy way to get a hold of us, ds-advising@berkeley.edu. This email is monitored daily, if not hourly, and it's the best way to get a hold of us if you have questions that we don't get to today, or if you have questions that are very specific to your situation that you'd like answered. We would be happy to talk to you. Okay. Finally, I wanted to let you know that there still is one more event focused on data science. That is our student panel, and that will be happening on Friday, April 24th, where you can hear from some of our students and understand a bit more about what their experience is, what it's like being a data science student here on campus. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and toss it to my colleague, Laura, to introduce herself, and we'll start taking some questions.
Hi, great. Thanks, Amanda. We've been getting some great questions here in the chat, so I'm just gonna jump right in and start reading some off.
Cool.
First question, is Data 8 available in the summer?
So yes, it is, but it's currently full. So you can't take it this summer, but yes, it is typically offered in the summer.
And what's the average class size for Data 8?
So Data 8 is probably one of the larger classes on campus. I believe, Laura, in the spring, were we at 1,300? Am I making that up?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is an extremely large class, but be aware that, and again, it's a little bit tricky now because of everything that's going on and all of the classes being online. But in a typical semester, even though your lecture would be that large, there are lab and discussion components that are much smaller. Those are typically about 24, 25 students. So that there are ways to connect with other students and to connect with your teaching staff.
Great. What about Engineering 7 for the program structures requirement instead of CS61A?
Oh yes, I did not mention that one. That's definitely possible. I'm not sure whether if this student is asking whether they've got an equivalent to that or they're thinking about taking that instead their first semester, but that is an option to meet that requirement.
Can we choose more than one domain emphasis?
We cannot give students credit for more than one domain emphasis, but that doesn't mean that a student couldn't choose to pursue another one and deepen, sort of their knowledge in 2 different areas. But right now, it's just the one required for the major.
It sounds like I think we have a few students here who are maybe interested in double majors. So we've gotten a bunch of questions about that.
Okay.
But can I double major? What about classes overlapping between majors?
Okay. So the answer is yes, you can definitely double major. It does require some planning. So if you want to do this, I would recommend making sure you bring it up in your advising sessions this summer and start planning now. There is overlap you are allowed 2 upper division course overlaps between your 2 majors. So that would potentially mean that you would only be taking, you'd be taking 8 classes, but 6 of those would be unique to the data science major, and 2 of them could be shared between the data science major and your other major. Doubling does limit you a little bit. I mean, it does mean that essentially if you were to sit down and look at your schedule, you're probably not going to have a lot of room for taking classes just of interest while you're at Berkeley. But we certainly see a lot of students doing it, and we can help you make it happen if that's something you would like to do while you're here.
A specific question, if I did want to double major, would it be doable to take Data 8 and CS88 along with 2 upper division classes for my other major in my first semester here?
So yes, with a caveat. I would say if, I talked about balance, right? Kind of using both sides of your brain. If your other major is not as mathematically or computationally rigorous as this major, then that might be totally possible. The thing to remember, and that we hear over and over from our transfer students, is it's not necessarily, like, the courses that you're going to take at Berkeley are not necessarily much more academically challenging. I mean, they will be. It's upper division versus lower division. But really the big difference that students experience when they're on campus is course load, just the amount of work associated with a class, and also pace and how quickly the classes go and how quickly you're expected to learn new concepts. So again, yes, with a caveat. I mean, I would say if you're thinking you're going to do data 8, CS88, and then if you're thinking about doing two other upper division math classes, I'd be a little bit concerned about feeling overwhelmed your first semester. Again, I don't think that's a totally unrealistic workload for your senior year. Once you've got a strategy in place and you kind of have a better sense for, like, how long does it take you to finish problem sets or projects? What is it like to study for a midterm and a final? I think once you have your strategies in place, you can certainly start taking on more and more rigorous schedules.
Great. Amanda, what classes must be completed before declaring the major?
Okay, let's go back to that slide. Let's see, I think that was, here we are. Okay, so data 8, 2 semesters of calculus. So again, we mentioned again, that's Math 1A and Math 1B at Berkeley. So anything equivalent to those or exam credit. Linear algebra, typically a Math 54 equivalent, CS 61A or CS 88 or Engineering 7. And for data structure 61B. So it gets, again, a little bit tricky based on what students have taken when they get here. But we're really committed to making sure that if you want data science to be your major, that we're going to help you make that happen. But these are the courses that are required to finally, to actually declare the major. And just to reiterate again, it is a 2.0 GPA requirement. Specifically, that 2.0 needs to be between data 8, linear algebra, and CS 61B, or equivalent. Did you want to add anything, Laura? Does that sound like that was what the student was asking?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
Okay.
All right. Let us know in the chat if we did not answer completely. Will a minor also provide a good amount of the same skills that you would find in the major?
So certainly it's not as many courses. You're not going to get the same kind of depth that you would as part of a major. I mean, you could be really careful about the electives that you chose if there were specific skills that you wanted to learn. So this is one area where, and I totally forgot to mention them, but we also have an amazing group of peer advisors. And these are later stage students who are juniors and seniors who have tons of experience and can answer lots of questions about class experience and what the different classes are like. And this is a place where I probably would refer a student and say, look, like, you know, what skills do you want to learn? What might be the best classes to take to get those skills? And then you might really want to finely tune your elective choices in the minor to get you those skills. The other thing is if you're really interested in the minor and want to kind of, you might want to consider pairing the minor like with a discovery program experience, right? So think about, you know, pursuing that program, so you're getting the curricular portion of it, but then you're also getting kind of this hands-on experiential portion of a data science experience as well.
Great. While we're on the major prerequisites page, I'm going to jump around a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you talk about differential equations and why assist might list differential equations as a prerequisite, if that's actually needed?
Yes. So the way most of our California community colleges have, the way the equivalency works between Math 54 and most of our California community colleges is that Math 54 looks like 2 classes at the community college level. It looks like it's a differential equations class and a linear algebra class. There are a few I've seen out there that actually have 3 classes to make it equivalent to Math 54. But for our purposes, students just need to take the linear algebra portion of that equivalency equation. So if you're looking at Assist and it has the 2 classes at your community college are equal to Math 54, whatever that linear algebra component is, that is the class that we would require. Best case scenario, we'd love for you to actually have full equivalence to Math 54. Math is like a language. The more experience that you have in it, the more often you're using it, the better you're going to be at it. And a lot of the classes in the upper division curriculum will kind of challenge you mathematically. So if you can, it's great to have full equivalence to Math 54, but we only require the linear algebra portion for our major. I should also point out, we're, I believe, the only major on campus that does this. So if you are considering double majoring and that major requires Math 54, you would need to, you don't want to just do the linear algebra portion. You want to do you want to have full equivalence.
Can the math requirement be waived by advanced placement, by AP?
Yes, the Calc 1 and Calc 2, we will accept exam placement. Or advanced placement, sorry.
Changing topics a little bit now, will the data science major prepare me for a master's in data science in grad school? Or are there other majors that would be better for that preparation?
So it's a really interesting question, and one that I don't think we have, and Laura, you might want to weigh in on this too. I don't think we have 100% of the full picture here on this yet, because data science undergraduate degrees are relatively new, whereas I think data science master's degrees have been around for a little bit longer. So what you may find in a data science master's degree, having come from a data science undergraduate degree, is that some of it there may be some overlap. It may be that you're seeing that when you get to your master's program, you're actually seeing a lot of the concepts that you've already learned in your undergraduate degree. So I would encourage, so that's sort of like a nuanced answer. I don't think it's a yes or no answer on this one. I think it really depends potentially on the program that you're looking at. And it also, master's programs have different advantages in terms of, a lot of master's programs are more professional in nature. So you actually, they build up their career services components. So you could actually, this would be you might see robust career placement as part of a master's program. But in terms of whether the data science major prepares you for a data science master's, I would say it does, but it might even, I don't know if over prepare is the right word, but it might mean that when you go into that master's program, you may be doing work that you have already done. Again, really depends on the program. Laura, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's exactly what I would say. We hear that in all fields, that having your undergraduate degree in the same area that you're planning to do a professional degree in can sometimes end up being a lot of overlap. That's different from having your undergraduate degree be in the same area as an academic program like a PhD. If you wanted to do a PhD, you probably would want your undergraduate degree in the same area. But professional programs like law school, like business school, like data science, very often it's sometimes even to your benefit to have a different background coming in. And I can also answer this next question if you want me to. How does a minor in data science differ from a minor in digital humanities? Do you want me to take that one?
Go for it.
And the reason I'm offering everyone is because I actually used to work really closely with the program in digital humanities. So it's a relatively new summer minor that we offer here at Berkeley. You can do all of the courses for the digital humanities minor just in the summer. And basically it is looking at some data science applications, but specifically in humanities areas. So it's looking at how do we analyze literature using computers? How do we analyze text, for example? How do we analyze art? How is computation being applied in the music industry? So there's a bunch of different electives that are offered in that program every summer. All of those courses are approved in a couple of different areas within the data science major. So there's definitely overlap between data science and digital humanities. But digital humanities is much more specific. It's really designed for people who want to take some data science skills and apply them in a particular area of art, literature, history, so even some social sciences, that kind of thing. Okay, so moving on, we had a couple questions here about getting into classes. So how hard would it be to get into Data 8 if you applied as a different major and are hoping to add data science as a double?
Gosh, so I would say as a data science major, we are reserving seats for our students because they have to have it to graduate in our major. So we are for transfer students. So I don't know, actually, Laura, I don't know whether I don't know what the percentage is of transfers incoming to fall getting into that class. or even in spring. I guess in spring you'd have a bit more priority, your enrollment. But I mean, what have you seen in past trends in terms of the numbers of incoming transfer students getting into Data 8 in the fall?
So we do have seats reserved in fall for new transfers,
Right.
not just, so we have a pool that are reserved for our intended data science majors, and then there's another larger pool that are reserved for new transfers of any major, and that larger pool is intended for students who, you know, maybe you've got your primary major somewhere else, but you're thinking about adding data science as a double, or you're thinking about the minor, or even just you just want to take Data 8 to learn a little bit about data science and apply it to your major. So we do have a decent number of seats that are open. They did fill last year. So if you are interested, I would say definitely make sure to pay attention to all of the communications you get from the campus over the summer so that you know when it's your time to register and you don't miss that day. If you do try to register later, it may not be still possible to add it in the fall, but we do have a good size number of seats reserved for fall.
Yeah, I think actually you bring up a good point about paying attention to enrollment dates. I think getting into classes can be challenging, but I think if you're on top of your enrollment dates and you've reviewed your schedules with your advisors so that you're kind of you have a realistic schedule, I think students get into the classes that they need to get into. So I don't think that's a problem, but it is, I think, all along your experience at Berkeley, being on top of your enrollment plan, your enrollment phase 1 date, and when that opens up is really important.
What about getting into computer science classes like CS 61A in the first semester or upper division classes in the future?
So we don't see students having too much of a problem getting into the lower division CS classes. Upper division can be a bit more of a challenge. We actively are working with the departments that offer some of our courses to try and increase the sizes of really popular courses. We're working with those departments. Not all of our efforts are successful, but we are diligently at work trying to increase those classes we know are most popular with our students and that our students want to take. But in general, I would say that most students who want to get into upper division CS classes get into them. It may mean that you may have to plan ahead and try a couple different times to get into that class. But in general, and Laura, let me know if you've been seeing different, but I think most students are able to get into those classes if they need them.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to point out that it's almost 4:45.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I'll just ask one or two more questions to kind of wrap up on the presentation. And then I think Amanda and I are probably happy to hang out after that, and if we didn't get to your question.
Yeah, no problem.
So what is the acceptance rate for the Discovery program, the Discovery Research program?
So we're growing that program. So that program is getting bigger and bigger. It really kind of depends on your experience. So we really like to see students at the very least have some Data 8 experience. The projects are made up of teams. And so it's multiple folks on a team, and they try and keep those teams pretty diverse, right? So there may be some students who have a ton of experience. They've worked on projects before, and that might be the team lead. And then the other folks in the project are of varying degrees of preparation or of experience in data science. So it's certainly not 100%, but I would encourage students who are interested in that program to learn more about it and to apply.
Great. So I will just wrap up with this one last question. What are the chances that fall semester will be offered online?
I got this question from one of our current students today in a phone call in one of our advising sessions. Laura, let me know if I'm misstating. I would say summer is being offered completely online. I would say we don't quite have enough information yet to know what's going to happen this fall and whether, what the expectations might be. I know that is not a comforting answer, Probably, but you know, I think it's pretty unlikely that it's going to be wide open classes resuming just like they would in a normal fall. But maybe Laura, if you have any additional color or you've heard anything different that might inform students about what fall might look like.
I definitely don't know anything more official. I do think, like you said, it will probably look different from past falls in some way. There might be some sort of hybrid of some online and some in-person instruction going on. Certainly, we have a lot of very large classes in data science, and having 700 people in a lecture hall is probably not going to be a great idea in September or October. So our classes will almost certainly look a little different. But the good news is they've had a lot of experience of how to offer instruction online.
Yeah.
Many of our classes are already partially online, so it should be a relatively seamless transition for a lot of us.
Yeah, I think we're lucky in this major that was, and most of the classes now will have the practice of having gone online from half of the spring semester and all summer. So hopefully that it just gets smoother and smoother. All right. Well, I think with that, as Laura mentioned, we're going to wrap up just in case folks have meetings that they want to get to that start at 5, so you can get a little bit of a break. But we will hang out and answer some more questions if we didn't get to yours. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, do you want me to keep